Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. I am here for the first challenge of the CKC group for this month, and it is based on September being a popular back to school month, but instead of going back to school with our specific theme, we are using our ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. Now, I do happen to have a school photo here from my daughter, but that's not why I chose it. I chose it because I have an older backlog of photos that I'm trying to work through, and this is one of them. So I am making myself a note of the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. Now, you don't have to use both, but I am going to. So for the letter B, I chose a border strip, and that is going to be the first item. And then for let's see, the number 1, I know I have one photo. For the number 2, I'm going to create 2 bows. For the letter A, I know I have some arrows in my embellishments, so I'm going to be sure to use those. And then let's see, the number 3, I needed to come up with something, so I decided that I will go with 3 pattern papers. I do choose 4 at first, but I will narrow it down to just the 3. And then, for the number 1, I also realized I could use 1 sheet of cardstock, so I've got that one covered in multiple ways. But then I also realized, cardstock starts with the letter C, so that covers my C, and I am good to go with all of the ABCs of 1, 2, 3s for my layout. So let's go ahead and start building. I am going to start off this layout with some mixed media, and I chose to put a lot of mixed media into my kit this month because I've been kind of aching to play with some of that. It looks like I'm not starting off with mixed media. I'm starting off with the bones of this layout, and it's going to be a little bit of a blocked design. There we go. And so those are my 3 main blocks. I'm going to put my title up there on top of that border strip. That leaves room for a tiny journaling block. And then I'll figure out my visual triangle of embellishments. But first I'm going to play with this mixed media. Like I said, I've been really wanting to do this. And as I was looking through these sprays, I was trying to figure out which one I wanted to use. And I chose the one that made me the most nervous because it's a gloss spray from Dina Wakley. And I have used these once maybe, and at first I wasn't sure how it was going to show up on the yellow, and so I tested it out, and it is opaque enough to show up on the yellow. And I give my stencil a spray, and it doesn't mist well enough through the stencil to actually get a good pattern. And then my second spray, I went heavier, and it started dripping. And I thought, okay, I like drips, I can go with it. So my third spray, I finally got the look that I was hoping to get out of this. But by this point, everything was so messy, and even like trying to clean up the spray from my table was hard, but I did find alcohol is a magic cleanup tool for these gloss sprays. So as I'm looking at this dried layout, and I did let this dry overnight, I wasn't really happy with it. I looked at the back side of it, that wasn't going to work. So I decided to go ahead and use temporary adhesive to put this down, because sometimes as I'm working with something, it starts to grow on me, or I've covered up enough of the areas that are kind of bugging me to make it work. So I thought, okay, just go with it and see how it goes. And so one of the things I think might help is to outline some of the stenciling so that it makes the stenciling a little more clear and present. And that's not doing me much good. So I continue outlining things because I like to do that with my black pen. I think it helps give a nice pop to various elements. I did go over some of the areas with my black pen. Luckily on the white areas, I just cover it up with a white gel pen. Some of the other areas I couldn't fix up as easily, but I digress. I keep building my layout knowing that all of this so far is just temporarily adhered to that white background. And here I'm adding a little bit of washi tape, and that will go over, but washi tape comes up easy enough, so that's not a big deal. I do add a second layer of washi tape to that to darken it up because washi tape is see-through. But if you add 2 layers, and since this is a simple pattern, I could just easily line that pattern up on top of each other, and you'll see hopefully in a later shot that washi tape looks a little more noticeable. In the meantime, I've tied my 2 bows to get my number 2 done. I'm creating a cluster for my journaling to go on, and I'm going to make sure all of my clusters are attached to this central blocking area so that if, or I should say when, because I know by the end of this project I do change out that yellow background with something else. So I am sure to keep all of the attachment of clusters and such onto this main background so that I can change that out later. I get my title in place, and this little G was running into the banner, so I thought about what to do, and I clipped it off, and I kind of stretched it a little bit. So if you stretch it too much, it will definitely look awkward, but I stretched it just enough to get it to peek out from under that banner, and that did me some good. So here is where I finally made the decision that that yellow background is not working for me. I will just set it aside and save it for something else because it might work for me later. And because now I knew the technique that I liked better with the sprays and the stencil, I went ahead and did that, but I switched it up to the white spray because I just was scared of the other spray after it not working so well. And the white spray is easier to clean up, so that was a big point for me right there. At any rate, I'm not going to let that spray intimidate me in the future. I just needed to move on for now. I am going to pull that spray out and I am going to learn how to use it. So hold me to it for future videos. Okay, oh, you can see while I am letting my blue page dry, I am finishing up all of these embellishment clusters. So that is where we are at in this process. I add just all the bits and pieces that I had in my kit this month. So some enamel dots, some puffy hearts, so on and so forth. I think I will add some sequins after I move it to the blue background paper, because then that way I can have those spill over the edge and kind of tie everything together. I get the final bit of my journaling in, and this is where I pull it apart, and I'm using some of that washi tape to hold all of those background pieces together as I transfer it over. And you can see the bits and pieces hanging off the edge. That upper left-hand corner, I actually glued underneath the blocked piece so that it could still lift off that background page, even though it looks like it's attached to the background. It is not. I get my spatter back out so I can finish up with incorporating that white ink onto the rest of the layout, and some more enamel dots sprinkled over, and then I do get out some sequins, I believe, to sprinkle over as well. And that will finish up the layout for this time. Oh, there we go. There's the sequins. And as you can see, I do just literally sprinkle them on and pretty much glue them into place wherever they fall. If they're covering up an element, that's the time where I will nudge them over a little bit. And I just like, that's an easy way to get randomness because, you know, it is random. So that wraps it up for now. I hope you enjoyed watching my process of being intimidated by a product and shifting gears, and also the promise to not let it intimidate me forever. So hold me to that, like I said. That wraps it up for this time. If you got something useful out of this video, I always do appreciate the thumbs up because that does help my channel. And I'm not sure when I'll be back next because of busy schedule stuff, but I will be back. And until then, have an artful day.